Today I'm in Birmingham for a conference, but I won't lie, this is also a Tolkien mission because Birmingham helped Tolkien as a writer. It is in this city that he grew up and went on to write his legendarium.
The first word that comes to mind when we hear Birmingham is Peaky Blinders. Flat caps, smoke, grit, gangsters. But Birmingham is much more than that. Because Birmingham is also quietly Tolkien's city. Not the grand cinematic Middle-earth version we all picture first, but the Birmingham that forms the seed of it. The small woods, the dark water, the mills, the edges of the city where a child could disappear into imagination. And that's what I'm chasing today. Not where Tolkien lived as a checklist, but how a place becomes a world. Because Tolkien didn't invent Middle-earth in a vacuum. He carried it out of real ground, out of English mud and leaf shadow, out of water wheels and footpaths, out of the feeling that something ancient is hiding inside the ordinary. If you've ever read Tolkien and felt the strange ache, that's that sense of beauty mixed with loss, it helps to remember. It started here, in places like Birmingham's green pockets, where industry and nature stood side by side, and the modern world was already pushing at the edges of older ones. So this isn't just a travel day. It's a return to the source code of a legend, the landscapes that shaped the imagination before the mythology had names. And yes, Birmingham has other storytellers too. It's also the home of Lee Child, the creator of Jack Reacher. Yes, this Reacher. But today, the lens is locked on Tolkien, because this city didn't just raise a writer, it helped build a world. We are going to move through Birmingham like a reader moves through a text, looking for motifs, echoes, hidden meanings, from towers to trees, from the modern city to the places that still feel like they're waiting for a story to begin. Peaky Blinders is a loud story. Today, I'm here for the quieter origin. Alright, this is Tolkien's Birmingham. Let's begin.
As a city, Birmingham was a product of the Industrial Revolution, a revolution that rattled many literary figures, including people like William Blake, like Wordsworth, and even to an extent Tolkien as well. His two towers can be read as a critique of the Industrial Revolution, especially the parts where we see the Orthanc, Saruman, and the Orcs of Isengard.
In 1801, the population of Birmingham was about only 74,000. But Birmingham's workshops, metal trades, canals, and booming industry pulled people in, work, wages, and opportunity, drawing thousands from the countryside. By the 1850s, the population had passed 200,000.
To solve the problem of housing crisis that became a reality when Industrial Revolution hit Birmingham, the city built a lot of back-to-back homes which had common courtyards. People used to live together in a communal setting, which was ideal for the factory life that the city had become used to. These back-to-back homes became obsolete after the Public Safety Act came into effect, and as a result, many of these back-to-back homes were demolished. Although cities like Leeds and other places in the Midlands continued building it, Birmingham had destroyed most of them. The last back-to-back home left in Birmingham is now managed by the National Trust, and we are going there now.
These are Birmingham's back-to-backs, a whole neighborhood compressed into a courtyard. Homes stacked against homes, built for survival, not comfort. You can feel it in the tight staircases, the small rooms, the way light struggles to get in. And to really understand what these walls have witnessed, Rosemary from the National Trust is going to take us inside and bring this place to life.
Back-to-back houses were small, cheap, quickly built houses which were linked at the back. There was a solid wall at the back linking two houses. So one house would open onto the street with its front door there. Another house would open into a courtyard where there were shared facilities like toilets, etc. These were lived in Birmingham until 1966, when they were declared unfit for people to live in because of the toilet situation, and the houses had also got into quite a bad state. They were very damp. There was a rodent problem. There were lots of mice and rats overrunning the houses. The kitchen facilities were very poor as well because the cooking was actually done on the fireplaces. So from from this particular courtyard was open from 1831 till 1966, when people were rehomed in council houses in Birmingham. Some of the buildings by then had become shops, so they were open for a few years more. And the conservation took 4 years to complete, because everything had to be pulled out of the houses. There were extensive repairs to be done, and then research had to be done into new furniture and fittings to put into the houses before they could be open to the public. And since 2004, they have been opened by the National Trust, and many thousands of visitors have passed through these houses to see what life was like in the 19th century.
Although there is only one back-to-back home remaining in Birmingham today, at its heyday, 40% of the city's population called back-to-back homes their home.
Standing here, you realize how much a city was built on ordinary people living under extraordinary pressure. It's humbling, and honestly, it makes me grateful. Grateful that for most of us, this isn't home anymore. That we don't have to fold an entire life into a few crammed meters just to survive. And yet, I'm also grateful that these places still exist, because they refuse to let the past become abstract. They make history physical. Now we are going to step out of city's tight rooms and travel to a very different Birmingham, the Birmingham of trees, water and childhood wanderings, because not far from here is where young Tolkien spent his early years, and where the city quietly begins to turn into Middle-earth.
Although Tolkien was not born in Birmingham, he was born in Bloemfontein, South Africa, but the city of Birmingham itself had a huge impact on him, and it shaped him as a writer that we know today. After his father Arthur passed away, his family, including his mother, settled down in the Edgbaston area of Birmingham. Now, the place that you see behind me, all this was a small village. This village is called as Sarehole, and we are walking to the Sarehole Mill, which arguably was one of the main inspirations for The Hobbit, including the Black Mountains of Abergavenny in Wales. This place is considered as the most important place for Tolkien that conceived him the idea of the Shire, and we'll be seeing later the Mossly Bog that actually influenced him to create the Old Forest. We are at the Sarehole Mill, one of the inspirations for the Shire for Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings. Well, Tolkien used to live around this place. Tolkien lived in the Sarehole village when he moved to Birmingham with his mother. After his father died, this was the only place that they had, so they lived in this place. And Tolkien played in these grounds. Tolkien was very much inspired by this very mill. Although this is a very, very unique mill by itself, because it is it's a mill that grinds corn. It is a water-powered mill, but at the same time, it has a chimney as well. That's pretty unique for its time. But at the same time, Tolkien lived a very brief amount of his life in Birmingham. Later, although he joined the King Edward School later while he was living in Birmingham, and then went on to Exeter College in Oxford, he described himself as a Birmingham boy. Although I would love to take you to locations where Tolkien used to live, but sadly they are private residences, so it wouldn't be nice to go there and pick up the camera. But yeah, this is a quite good place. Birmingham City Council has turned this place into a museum. Although there is nothing much to see inside the museum itself, but this is a part of the park that is the Shire Park, that's the Shire Country Park, which is quite nice place to walk in if you love the Shire, if you love the Lord of the Rings. I'm leaving Sarehole Mill behind now on foot, following the line where the city starts to thin out into the Shire Country Park, where Tolkien's Birmingham starts to feel like the edge of the Shire. Tolkien belonged to this place. Tolkien played here. Tolkien saw this river. Tolkien saw the trees around. Tolkien saw the playgrounds around. Tolkien saw the squirrels around. And the place might not have been very different from what it is today, although it's a bit noisy when considering the homes and the cars around. But in Tolkien's time, this should have been much quieter. This was a part of a very small village. This wasn't a part of Birmingham back then. This was Sarehole. This was not Birmingham. Although now this is a part of Birmingham itself. No wonder Tolkien was inspired by this place. This place has everything that the Shire had. Rivers, small playgrounds, the birds chirping, a quiet, tranquil surrounding. Tolkien very much owned this place. Shire Country Park feels like Birmingham exhaling. Open paths, water, that soft green calm.
But Tolkien's Birmingham has another heartbeat to it, more secretive one. So I'm now heading to Mosley Bog, where the woods tighten, the silence deepens, and you can almost believe the story is watching you back.
We are now in Mosley Bog, arguably the inspiration for the old forest just beside the Shire. This is a place where Old Man Willow lived. This is a place where one of the most iconic characters of Lord of the Rings lives, Tom Bombadil. While we are sitting in the Mosley Bog, shall we address the elephant in the room? Who is Tom Bombadil? Who is he? Is he a hobbit? Is he an elf? Is he a dwarf? Is he a wizard? Or is he someone else that we don't even conceive of? Well, that is the ambiguity that Tolkien left in the novel. He does not actually explicitly tell us who Tom Bombadil is, although many Tolkien scholars have actually delved into this question of trying to actually get into the fact that who exactly is Tom Bombadil. Well, when Frodo asks Tom Bombadil who he is, Tom Bombadil just replies by saying, "I am Tom Bombadil," that's it. He is such an interesting character because nothing affects him, not even the ring. Ring doesn't have an effect. When Frodo gives him the ring, he throws it away and he says, "What the hell is this?" I mean, imagine that kind of character whom even Sauron cannot control. Tom Bombadil can also be seen as a polar opposite to Sauron. Tom Bombadil is nature themselves, while Sauron, on the other hand, wants to control the world, wants to have everyone under his control, while Tom Bombadil does not get affected even by the One Ring. He is older than the trees, older than everything, while we can get into the exegetion that maybe Tom Bombadil came before even the rivers were there. Gandalf pays him a visit after the War of Mordor, after Sauron is defeated. But this particular place is pretty interesting to me because Tolkien might have been in the Mosley Bog many a times. This might have been the reason that the Shire is pretty close by to the Old Forest, as the Mosley Bog is pretty close by to the Sarehole Mill, which was the inspiration for the Shire in the first place. Apart from the Sarehole Mill, the Birmingham Oratory became a very important place in Tolkien's life, since it was a church that Tolkien and his mother used to go to, especially after Tolkien's mother converted into Catholicism. This is the Birmingham Oratory. Now, this place is extremely important for understanding Tolkien's life and also his growth as a writer. Now, this place, as I mentioned earlier, was the spiritual retreat, was the place that his mother used to come a lot, especially after the conversion to Catholicism. Now, Tolkien himself was a very devout Catholic. He himself mentioned that the Lord of the Rings is fundamentally a Christian work, although he did it unconsciously, but at least in the revisions, he came to realize that. After coming to this place, I'm starting to realize why Tolkien liked this place a lot. Now, this place is pretty tranquil, to be very honest. It is right beside the Perris Folly. It is right beside the Waterworks Tower. Now, this place is beautiful. The interior of this place is extremely beautiful. At the same time, the spiritual education that Tolkien received from this place was obviously very pivotal in him shaping the character of Frodo Baggins, of Gandalf, of Gollum as well. To those people who ask the question of why should we read Lord of the Rings as a Christian epic, my simple answer would be that Tolkien himself was a devout Catholic, and his reasonings were pretty much evident in the book itself. Frodo's mercy towards Gollum is one example towards it. Now, it is very important to understand that Tolkien was crafting a national epic for this country, for Britain. He wasn't interested in the sharp dichotomy between good and evil. He was very much aware that good can become evil, and at the same time, evil can become good. Now, this murky space, the liminal space between good and evil, is what interested Tolkien, according to me. As far as I've understood, Tolkien himself was a very devout Christian. At the same time, he understood that people have flaws. Tolkien wanted to create an epic that would inspire the future generations to look up to the religious ideals, to look up to morals, to look up to what can exactly be done, what can good achieve over evil. That was Tolkien for you.
We're leaving the Birmingham Oratory now, and the next stop is very close. Just a short walk from here are two Edgbaston landmarks, Perris Folly and the Waterworks Tower, often linked to Tolkien's Birmingham because they would have been part of the local skyline when he was growing up.
Although Tolkien names a second novel as The Two Towers, he does not explicitly state which are these two towers. Now, there are at least 5 towers that are mentioned in the book: Minas Tirith, Minas Morgul, Barad-dûr, Cirith Ungol and Orthanc. The one that you see behind me is called the Perris Folly. Perris Folly was built by John Perrott in the 18th century as a leisure watchtower. This place might have been extremely rural when Perrott was living over here. Now, this place might have served as an inspiration for Tolkien due to the fact that this is very close to Birmingham Oratory. Now, and the oratory that I talked earlier, where he was a frequent visitor of. Now, this might have been the inspiration for Orthanc. Now, I would argue that the two towers are the Orthanc and the Minas Morgul for the very fact that in the entire storyline, Orthanc takes a major role where Saruman stands. He betrays the entire cause to Sauron, and then he starts the manufacturing of all the orcs through the forest of Fangorn, through basically the wood that he finds from the forest of Fangorn. Now, this tower, along with the waterworks tower that is right beside from this place, these two might have served as a big inspiration for Tolkien in building the two towers. Now, the tower that you see behind me is the waterworks tower. Now, this tower might have been the inspiration for Minas Morgul. Now, I would argue that the second tower that Tolkien talks about in the two towers is Minas Morgul and not the Barad-dûr. The reason being that the main issue and the main conflict comes from Minas Morgul, comes from going over the Black Gate rather than from Sauron himself. To end the Tolkien tour, I reached the University of Birmingham. This is a place where one of the most iconic clock towers of Britain is located, the Old Joe. The tower that you see behind me is called the Joseph Chamberlain Tower, or as people would fondly call it, Old Joe. Now, this place, the University of Birmingham, where I'm sitting right now, was repurposed as a military hospital during the First World War. Tolkien was brought here as well. Tolkien spent some weeks over here in this hospital. And the tower behind me, the Old Joe, might have been an inspiration for him to create the Barad-dûr. The bright large clock on the Old Joe might have been an inspiration for the terrifying Eye of Sauron on the Barad-dûr. Now, Tolkien hasn't explicitly stated himself that these are the towers that were an inspiration for him while he was writing the two towers. But at the same time, these towers have become a local legend as well. Now, it is very difficult to not notice the Old Joe. It is very difficult to not notice the Waterworks Tower, the Perris Folly. And also there is another tower called as a BT Tower in the city centre, but that tower wasn't built until the 1960s, so it is very unlikely that Tolkien was inspired by that tower as well. But it is quite interesting to see these things play around as well. At the end, it is also important to acknowledge that Birmingham doesn't get the love it deserves. This city is much more than Peaky Blinders. This city is much more than Thomas Shelby. This city is famous for all the wrong reasons on the news. But this city is extremely literary. This is one literary tour that I have done. This is just Tolkien that I have done in the city. This city is the home of Lee Child, home of the person who created the Reacher as well. I would urge everyone to come to the city. I would urge everyone to go on the Tolkien trail. I would urge everyone to enjoy this city. This city deserves all the love it should get. If you learned anything new from this video, if you loved the video, please do give a like, please do give a share, please do subscribe to the channel. It will be of immense support to us. Thank you.